Hello, brains. So I learned a thing. It's a really important thing, and it's one I don't want to forget. So I'm going to record a vlog about it. This episode is sponsored by Babbel, which I'm using to learn Italian. I'm planning on traveling to Italy next year, and I want to be able to understand what people are saying. That said, I don't have a lot of time to learn anything right now because I'm doing all the things I normally do on this channel, plus writing a book. So it's really important to me to learn as efficiently as possible. Babbel is amazing at that. Whenever I have a few minutes and remember to do it, I throw on my study hat, grab my phone, and take a quick lesson or do a quick review.
0
9
9
I've tried learning Italian a lot of ways by now, and by far, Babbel has been my favorite. In this one, I learned how to plan a picnic.
10 sono abbastanza. Ci sono anche gli spiedini.
Bene, portate voi le bibite, vero? I usually struggle to retain information, but with Babbel, I've been surprised. Even when it's been a while since my last lesson, I still seem to remember what I learned. There's enough review and repetition that I feel confident in my answers, but not so much that I get bored. There's a lot of variety in the way information is presented in the lessons, and you even get to pick how you want to review what you've learned. One of the most helpful things that I learned was how to tell somebody what your email address is. The @ symbol is pronounced chiocciola, and it means snail. So if you want to learn a new language, I highly recommend Babbel. You can click the link in the description or scan the QR to get 60% off your subscription. And let me know in the comments what kind of language you want to learn and why. I learned a very important lesson recently, and it's one that I wish that I had learned sooner. So in addition to putting it here for me to remember, I hope it's helpful for somebody else. And that is, there will be times in life when people don't get it. And it doesn't matter how hard you try to explain your perspective to them or whatever to them, they're not going to get it. And that can be frustrating because there's a very natural human desire to make people understand. And there can be a lot of reasons for that. But for me, I have one that's actually very related to my trauma. When I was 15 years old, I was playing therapist on my parents' bed, trying to talk to my dad about why my mom needed help around the house. My mom, for context, had gotten into a really bad car accident with a drunk driver. Her back was broken in a way that would never heal. She had a pain pump installed, and she was still working full time, raising 3 kids. I had ADHD. My brother is autistic. And she was also doing all of the housework. She was cleaning and getting down on her hands and knees, scrubbing the floor. And she needed help around the house. And my dad was not helping. And I could see how much it was hurting her. And my mom would tell him, Mike, I need your help. Like, this is a lot for me. And my dad wouldn't help. He was kind of stonewalling is what I understand it to be now. But I had at 15 this idea that if I could just help him understand how much this was hurting my mom, then he would help. It was an if-then statement. If he understood, then he would X. So on some level, me trying to get him to understand and me trying to get many other people over the course of my life to understand was a form of control. And turns out you can't control people. So I kind of got trapped in this reenacting of this trauma pretty much my entire life of trying to explain things to somebody when I had needs that weren't getting met, dating a guy who was not meeting those needs, and then trying to explain what I needed well enough that he would. And it never worked, ever. I think on some level, things that we're maybe insecure about or not quite sure about ourselves, we almost need that validation of well, if they understand, then they can validate this, and we need that validated. And I know it can be like that with ADHD, right? If I explain why I'm struggling at work to my boss and they get it, then I'll get the help I need, and then they'll understand, and then that will make it valid. It's valid whether they understand or not. And I think that's the thing that I'm learning. My feelings are valid whether somebody else understands them or not. My needs are my needs whether anybody understands them or not. And if they don't get it, I can still ask them to meet that need. And if they can't, I can still go to somebody else. It's okay. That's my mantra right now. It's okay. They don't have to understand. And honestly, there are times where I have tried to explain my perspective and realized that I didn't understand on retrospect. There's a parable I love about 3 blind men who have never come across an elephant before and encounter one for the first time. And one feels the elephant's tail and goes, oh, an elephant is like a rope. And another one goes, no, you're wrong. Because he's feeling the tusks. And he's like, no, an elephant is hard and pointy and sharp. And another one's feeling its side and is like, you're both wrong. An elephant is soft and warm and wrinkly. And the truth is, none of them are wrong. Just none of them have the whole truth. And I think that it's like that for most people. Most of us have our perspective, but we don't have the whole perspective. And we only understand what we can see, what we have experienced so far. And sometimes with time, we realize we were wrong, even about our own experience. People can be wrong. Somebody else can be wrong. We can be wrong. And that's okay. The truth is, sometimes people aren't going to get it. Some people are not going to understand whatever our experience is. There are people that have not felt enough of the elephant to have it even make sense to them when we tell them, this part of the elephant is hard and pointy, I guess. And we can have some humility about it too. There are times where we're not going to understand, or we're going to think that we're right and we're not actually right. But in the times when we're, we absolutely are sure we are, even if we are, it doesn't mean somebody else is going to understand just because we explain. And by the way, if we are going into a situation trying to explain, that means that we're not in a receptive place to understand ourselves. And so if the other person is trying to explain something, their perspective, we're not going to hear it. And so letting go of the need for somebody else to understand can make us a little bit more receptive to understanding ourselves, because there's always pieces we're missing. In retrospect, I don't think that I should have been put in the position of trying to play therapist to my parents, but I bet it would have been a lot more effective if I had asked my dad about his perspective rather than trying to get him to understand my mom's. It probably wasn't that he didn't understand. So what can we do when people don't get it? We can reassure ourselves and validate ourselves that our feelings are valid, our needs are valid, even if people don't understand them. Our perspective may or may not be correct because, we're flawed. Humans are flawed. And we can't all see all of the elephant at once. There might be things that we're missing. And we can take that time to understand ourselves, because even if somebody else is not in a space to be able to understand us, maybe we can understand them. Thank you again to Babbel for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description or scan the QR to get 60% off your subscription. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for supporting this grand experiment of me teaching everybody what I learn as I learn it about my ADHD and things probably impacted by my ADHD. I'd be curious what you do when people don't get it. Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click all the things, and I will see you next video. Bye, brains.